Children. Today we will start the last chapter of our syllabus from honeydew, and the chapter is chapter number 9, the great stone face. Student, it is a very long story which is given in two parts in your syllabus, and today we will start part first of this lengthy chapter. It is a very interesting story in which you will find the changeable character of human beings, how a man can change his nature according to time. So, as I have told you that it is a very long story, and it has been given in two parts, and I think it will be the last chapter of the syllabus of term second from honeydew. Before we should start the chapter, I want to explain you that what is the meaning of this chapter is a great stone face. Student, there was a mountain range, and from a village you can see the great mountain range, and from the long distance when someone can see, there was appearing a human face among the mountain range. So this face was smiling to see the others. And what is the meaning of this stone face which was seeming among the mountain range? This is the suspense of the story. So the title of the story is called The Great Stone Face, and part first has been prescribed here in your syllabus. And today, as chapter number 9, we will start this chapter. It is a very interesting chapter. Before we should start the chapter, I want to explain you something which will be very interesting, and you can say that it will be the introduction of the chapter. Before you read, seen from a distance, hilltops and huge rocks seem to assume various shapes. जब हम माउंटेन रेंज को दूर से देखते हैं तो हमें बहुत से शेप्स उसमें दिखाई देते हैं. दे में रिजेंबल एन एनिमल और ए ह्यूमन फिगर. कहीं एनिमल का फिगर दिखाई देता है, कहीं से ह्यूमन फिगर दिखाई देता है. पीपल एट्रीब्यूट स्टोरीज टू दीज शेप्स. There were many stories among the people about these shapes. Some stories came true, others don't. And about the forecasting of these shapes, some stories became true and some other stories were not become true. The great stone face is one such shape that reminds the inhabitants of the valley. There was a valley, and here was a village in this valley, and it was a prophecy among the people of this village. And what was the prophecy? What was this prophecy? It come true. And if the story, if the prophecy, if the forecasting about the great stone face became true or not, it is the suspense, it is the all suspense of the story. So as I have told you that you will find only one part of the story here. Now, students, you have to open your books, and I'm going to start your syllabus, start your chapter. One afternoon, when the sun was going down, it was the time of one afternoon, the sun was going down, a mother and her little boy sat on the gate. A mother was sitting on the gate of their cottage talking about the great stone face. Both the mother and her son, they were talking about the great stone face. They had only lift their eyes, and there it was, plain to be seen. When they lift their eyes, they can see a great stone face, plain to be seen through the miles away. Although the distance was miles away, the mountain range was far away from miles from their cottage, with the sunshine brightening all its features. And in the sunshine, they can see all the features of the cottage of this great mountain range. Now, what was the reality of this mountain range of this great stone face? And it was the great stone face. The great stone face was a work of nature. Although it was not an original face, it was not painted by any painter, but it was the creation of nature. It was the work of nature formed on the perpendicular side of a mountain by some immense rocks. Among the rocks, there was a shape of human face, so it was called the great stone face, which had been thrown together so that when the viewed at a proper distance, when someone will see it from a proper distance, they resemble the features of a human face, and from there you can see the feature of a human face. If the स्पेक्टेटर अप्रोच टू द नियर, अब जब देखने वाले दर्शक जो है उस माउंटेन रेंज के पास पहुंचेंगे, he lost the outline, then you will surely you will lose the outline of the enormous face. Then you should be unable to see the face and could see only a heap of gigantic rocks. तो वहाँ जब आप जाएंगे तो वहाँ आपको कुछ नहीं मिलेगा, केवल बड़ी बड़ी चट्टानों का एक ढेर मिलेगा, और जब दूर से आप देखेंगे तो वो एक ह्यूमन फेस दिखाई देता था, piled one upon another. But seen from the distance, what when you will again come from the distance, the clouds clustering above it, the great stone face seemed positively to be alive. और ये फेस ऐसे दिखाई देता था जैसे ये मुस्कुरा रहा हो, जो कोई जीवित हो. It was a belief of many people, and as I told you that there were many stories, there were many fancies about the great stone face in the people, among the people of the valley, that many people say that the valley owed much of its fertility to the begin face that was continuously beaming over it. कि यहाँ की जो फर्टिलिटी है, यहाँ जो फर्टिलाइजेशन है, यहाँ जो अच्छी खेती होती है, वो केवल और केवल इस ग्रेट स्टोन फेस की वजह से होती है. A mother and her little boy, as we said earlier, सुबह सुबह दोनों उठते थे, sat at the door of their cottage. They always sat on the door at the door of their cottage, gazing at the great stone face. They were always gazing at the great stone face, talking about it, and they were always busy to talking about this great stone face. The child's name was Ernest. उस बच्चे का जो नाम था, वो छोटा सा जो बच्चा था अपनी माँ के साथ अपनी जो कॉटेज थी उसके गेट पे बैठता था, एंड फ्रॉम द प्रॉपर डिस्टेंस दे वर एबल टू सी द ग्रेट स्टोन फेस, एंड द नेम ऑफ दिस बॉय वाज अर्नेस्ट. मदर सैड he told his mother said he, while the great face smiled on him. Because the great face was smiling on him, I wish that it could speak. मैं सोचता हूँ कि ये बोले. For it looks so very kindly that its voice must indeed be pleasant. कि इतना अच्छा देखने में लग रहा है, इतना सुंदर लग रहा है, तो इसकी वॉइस भी बहुत ही प्लीजेंट होगी, बहुत ही अच्छी होगी. If I ever see a man with such a face, काश मैं बड़ा होकर इस फेस को देख सकता. I should love him very much. I love this man very much. If an old prophecy should come to pass, it was an old prophecy, answered his mother. We may see a man sometime. कुछ दिनों के बाद हम एक आदमी को देखेंगे, which exactly such a face as that, जिसका फेस बिल्कुल ऐसा ही होगा जैसे ये ग्रेट स्टोन फेस है. What prophecy do you mean? Dear mother, the mother said, that which type of prophecy do you want, mother? And in which manner he was talking to the mother. He was talking to his mother that which type of prophecy they were talking about. कि वो कैसी प्रोफेसी थी, कैसी कल्पना थी, क्या होगा. Then the boy was in the introductory manner, he was calling to his mother that which type of prophecy she was talking. In this way, please tell me about it. बच्चा कहता कि माँ, what prophecy do you mean, dear mother? Eagerly inquired Ernest, please tell me about it. कृपया मुझे इसके बारे में बताओ. So his mother told him a story that her own mother had told her. तो उसकी माँ ने उसको एक स्टोरी बताई अर्नेस्ट को, जो कि उसकी माँ को उसकी नानी ने बताई थी. मदर had told her when she herself was younger than little Ernest. जब वो अर्नेस्ट के समान ही छोटी थी तो उसकी माँ ने उसे ये स्टोरी बताई थी. Now she was going to explain the story to her own son that at some future day, कि भविष्य में in future a child should be born, एक बच्चा आएगा जिसकी बर्थ यहीं हुई होगी. should be born, a child should be born नियर हियर, जिसका जन्म यहीं होगा. हु विल टेक बर्थ इन दिस वैली, हु वॉज डेस्टाइन्ड टू बिकम द ग्रेटेस्ट एंड द नॉबलेस्ट पर्सन ऑफ हिज टाइम एंड हुज फेस, जो अपने टाइम का ग्रेटेस्ट, महानतम एंड नॉबलेस्ट, बहुत ही नेक दिल इंसान होगा. पर्सन ऑफ हिज टाइम एंड हुज फेस इन मैनहुड, जिसके चेहरे पर एक मैनहुड होगा, उसका फेस इसी से चेहरे से मिलता होगा, इसी स्टोन फेस से. शुड वियर एन एग्जैक्ट रिजेम्बलेंस टू द ग्रेट स्टोन फेस. मैनी स्टिल हैड फेथ इन दिस ओल्ड प्रोफेसी. उस वैली के बहुत से लोग थे, वो इस प्रोफेसी पे यकीन करते थे कि एक न एक दिन कोई बच्चा जिसका जन्म यहीं होगा वो यहीं होगा, और उसका ये जो प्रोफेसी है, ये जो कल्पना है, वो बिल्कुल ट्रू होगी, और उस बच्चे का जो फेस है वो ग्रेट स्टोन फेस से मिलता होगा. एट ऑल इवेंट्स द ग्रेट मैन ऑफ द प्रोफेसी हैड नॉट येट अपीयर्ड. अब तक तो जो प्रोफेसी थी, द मैन अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस इमेजिनेशन, अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस प्रोफेसी, दिस मैन हैज नॉट बीन अपीयर्ड येट, अभी तो उसका जन्म नहीं हुआ था. ओ मदर, क्राइड अर्नेस्ट. एट वंस अर्नेस्ट टोल्ड हिज मदर, क्लैपिंग हिज हैंड्स above his head, I do hope that I shall live to see him. मैं आशा करता हूँ कि जब तक ये प्रोफेसी ट्रू होगी, सत्य होगी, तब तक मैं जीवित रहूँगा उस दिन को देखने के लिए. He was hopeful that in future when this great stone face, the similar man will come here and this prophecy will become true, I should be alive to that period. His mother was an affectionate and thoughtful woman. उसकी माँ जो थी बहुत ही चिंतनशील स्वभाव की, बहुत ही अफेक्शनेट थी, बहुत ही नेक हृदय की थी. It was proper, she thought. Then properly she was thinking not to discourage the fanciful hopes of her little boy. वो अपने बच्चे की जो भावनाएं थीं, जो फीलिंग्स थीं, उनको वो डिस्करेज करना नहीं चाहती थी. एट वंस ही सेड, सो शी सेड टू हिम, परहैप्स यू मे, शायद तब तक तुम जीवित रहो. एंड अर्नेस्ट नेवर फॉरगॉट द स्टोरी. अर्नेस्ट उस स्टोरी को कभी नहीं भूला दैट इज मदर टोल्ड हिम, जो उसकी माँ ने उसको बताई थी. इट वॉज ऑलवेज इन हिज माइंड वेन एवर he looked upon the great stone face. Whenever he was looking upon the great stone face, he spent his childhood in the log cottage where he was born. She always was sitting on the gate of his cottage where he was born, was dutiful to his mother and helpful to her in many things. He was a very dutiful child and he was very helpful to his mother because he was always helping her in household things, assisting her much with his little hands. He was able to help his mother as he could, and more with his loving heart. In this manner, from a happy yet open, pensive child, he grew up to be a mild and quiet youth. Now, this child became youth, now he became a young man. Ernest had no teacher. Ernest had no any teacher, but the great stone face became one to him, and this great stone face became the teacher of Ernest. When the work of the day was over, जब उसका दिन का काम खत्म हो जाता था, he would gaze at it for hours. वह घंटों बैठा अपनी झोपड़ी के गेट पर उसकी तरफ देखता रहता था. Until he began to imagine that those vast features recognized him and gave him a smile of kindness and encouragement. And he was always feeling that this great stone face was always giving him a kindness and encouragement, smiling. About this time, there went a rumor throughout the valley. अब पूरी वैली में एक रूमर, एक अफवाह फैल गई, that the great man who was to wear a resemblance to the great stone face, कि जो प्रोफेसी थी, जो कहावत थी पूरे वैली में, कि एक ऐसा आदमी आएगा जिसका चेहरा जो है वो ये ग्रेट स्टोन फेस से मिलता होगा, हैड अपीयर्ड एट लास्ट, वो अब पैदा हो गया है, मिल गया है. इट सीम्स दैट मेनी ईयर्स बिफोर, वो कौन है? मेनी ईयर्स बिफोर अ यंग मैन हैड लेफ्ट द वैली. वो कौन है? एक यंग मैन है जो उसने ये वैली छोड़ी थी, बहुत पहले यहाँ से गया था. तो वो हैड लेफ्ट द वैली एंड सेटल्ड इन अ डिस्टेंट सी पोर्ट. जो अब कहाँ सेटल्ड हो गया है? पास के ही सी पोर्ट पर, बंदरगाह पर सेटल हो गया है. द नेम ऑफ दैट यंग मैन वाज गैदर गोल्ड. उसका नाम था गैदर गोल्ड. इट वॉज हिज नेम. हैड सेट अप एज ए शॉपकीपर, जो अब शॉपकीपर बन गया है. एंड बीइंग शार्प इन बिजनेस मैटर्स, एंड ही वाज सो शार्प इन बिजनेस मैटर्स, हैड बिकम सो वेरी रिच, वो बहुत अमीर हो गया है. दैट इट वुड हैव टेकन हिम 100 years only to count his wealth. Now he is so rich that he will take hundreds of years that if he will count his money. वो अब इतना अमीर हो गया है, अगर वो अपनी मनी, अपना पैसा, अपनी वेल्थ, अपनी संपत्ति को काउंट करेगा तो उसे हजारों सैकड़ों वर्ष लग जाएंगे. In time he thought of his native valley. Now in this time he thought of his native valley. He was thinking about this valley where he was born and decided to go back there. और उसने निश्चय कर लिया है कि वो जो है अब अपने गांव में, अपनी वैली में, अपनी घाटी में लौटेगा. And end his days where he had born, and he will end his life and he will complete the left days of his life in this valley. Now everyone was much worried about it. Ernest had been deeply stirred by the idea. Ernest जो है इस आइडिया से बड़ा खुश था. That the great man, अब वो महान आदमी आ रहा है, whose face was similar to the great stone face. The noble man, the man of prophecy, he was the man of prophecy. After so many ages of delay, बहुत दिन हो गए, was at length of to be seen in his native valley. Now he could be able to see such a great man whose face was similar to the great stone face. Now this great man was returning to the valley. While the boy was still gazing up the valley one day and imagining that the great stone face returned his gaze, the noise of wheels was heard. Now the Mr. Gathergold, who was thought that he was the great man and whose face was similar to the great stone face, now he was returning to the valley, to his native valley. The noise of wheels was heard. Now everyone was hearing the noise of wheels, and a crowd of people cried, and many people were gathered and they were crying, "Here comes the great! Now here comes the great Mr. Gathergold." Now Mr. Gathergold, who was a very rich person, now he was returning to the valley. A carriage drawn by four horses. एक कैरेज एक गाड़ी थी जिसको चार घोड़े खींच रहे थे. डैश्ड राउंड द टर्न टू द रोड, सड़क पर आ रही थी. विद इन इट, thrust partly out of the window, appeared the face of an old man. उस खिड़की से एक पीले स्किन का एक ओल्ड मैन, बूढ़ा आदमी झांक रहा था. He was Mr. Gathergold. The very image of the great stone face, and it was called that it was the image of the great stone face, shouted the people. Sure enough, the old prophecy is true. Now everyone was saying that the old prophecy become true. Here we have the great man at last. And what greatly puzzled Ernest, they seemed actually to believe that here was the likeness which they spoke of, and which was the prophecy about that one day a great stone face, similar a person who was born from the valley in the valley, he will return here. He turned away sadly from the wrinkled shrewdness of the unpleasant face. जैसे उसने अनप्लीजेंट फेस को देखा, एंड गैज्ड अप द वैली वेयर द स्टोन फेस सीम टू से. अब जो स्टोन फेस वो क्या कह रहा था? ही विल कम. गैदरगोल्ड वॉज नॉट सिमिलर टू द ग्रेट स्टोन फेस, एंड वंस अपॉन द ग्रेट स्टोन फेस टोल्ड टू मिस्टर अर्नेस्ट दैट वन डे ही विल कम. फियर नॉट, डरो मत अर्नेस्ट, द मैन विल कम एंड द मैन विल श्योरली रिटर्न वन डे. यू हैव नॉट नीड टू वरी अबाउट it. Students, this is all about the story, and very successfully we have completed the first part of the story, and now second term we will complete it, and it is all over and the time is over. Surely we will complete it the next time. Okay students, goodbye.